Happy New Year. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for each life path number for 2025. Now, I will be doing a quick take for the year ahead for 2025, what it entails as far as the global cycle, the universal cycle that we'll be working with. I'll be putting that out as it gets closer to, as we get closer to 2025. So have a listen to that if you're interested to know more about, again, the overall energy of 2025 and how to best work with it, more on a mundane level. This video is, again, focused on what you can expect for your personal life path number. Now, please note, your personal year, which is derived from your own personal numerology, can be very different, and it takes priority over this reading for your life path. The personal year will be most dominant. And then, of course, this energy you'll be feeling, but it won't be as dominant as the personal year. So if you're interested in finding out what your personal year is, what that forecast entails, and for a specialized reading dedicated to your own personal numerology, then I suggest having, obviously, a reading. And my information is in the description box below. If you would like to work with me, I would love to take a look. And of course, this is a general forecast, so keep that in mind as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a look to see what we've got cooking in 2025. Life path number 4. So we're going to be working with the vibration of the 13-4 for 2025. And so ultimately, we're going to be working with our own energy of the 4, but we do have this influencing energy of the rather intense energy of the 13. So the 13 in tarot is represented by the death card, right? So there's some kind of, when we move through a 13 cycle, there's some kind of end that needs to occur, some kind of release, some kind of quote unquote death of something in order for us to move forward, in order for us to build something better from something, not so great. Or just from something that has reached its expiration point, but we weren't able to release it for whatever reason. Sometimes, like a relationship or a job can reach its expiration point, and we're so stuck in it because 4 energy is such a loyal, committed energy that we don't recognize that it's over or that, it served its purpose and now it's actually hindering us instead of helping us. And so when we move through a 13-4 cycle, in whatever area this sort of, I don't want to say collapse, but like this ending needs to occur in order to help us to move forward more freely, that's where we'll see it show up, right? So it brings in this end to something. And it can be an end to faulty belief systems, to, again, a career that's just holding us back and sucking our soul, relationships, friendships, family dynamics, you name it, viewpoints. So much here can be on the sort of the chopping block. And it doesn't mean that it has to end in such a way that it's completely taken away from us, right? It can be that extreme, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of this is more about releasing what's not working, right? An end to what's not working so that we can free ourselves from those chains that bind us so that we can move forward, on our evolutionary path much more freely. So it's actually really helping us. But when you're in the midst of that, right, that transformation, that metaphorical death, it can be challenging, to, maybe something happens and you get laid off. Maybe something happens and your business goes out of business. Maybe something happens and your relationship falls apart. I don't know, right? But when you're in that, when you're moving through that process, it can be very challenging, very uncomfortable. And we have to move through those experiences, right? To get the wisdom out of them, to understand that release isn't always easy, but it's necessary. Everything in life is transient. And that's really what the 13-4 helps us to see, is that everything is transient. And when something has served its purpose, it's released, and makes space for the new to come in. This year, for 2025, I don't think it's just going to be like this, this continuation of things ending, right? Like one after the other. I think that, for some that may be possible if that's what's needed. But I think really this is more about that final release of something or someone or an experience that needs to be released, right? And then this sort of reemergence, this emerging of self, ready to take on the next chapter. So there's this really like very strong pivotal points that may occur for you all, and myself included, I'm a 4 too, this year that, will be very like, you can see the stark differences of what needs to fall away and the new vision of what's to come, right? The new opportunities presenting themselves. So it's a very powerful and potent energy, and it can be difficult to move through it because of the intensity of it. However, when you get through it and you get to the other side of it, there's a sense of gratitude for having gone through it, because it's helped you to get to the point where you wouldn't have gotten without it, right? So just kind of keep that in mind as you move through this year. Anything that falls away this year, anything that's released, anything that ends is not punitive. It's not meant to derail you. It's meant to free you in some way. We just have to be open to that change. And like I said, there's this, not only this sense of release, but this sense of reemerging. It's kind of like the phoenix rising type of energy, right? Getting to like things crumbling and then rebuilding from the ashes type of thing is very much like that energy. So this year could be your phoenix rising. It could be the point where, maybe in the past couple of years, things have been falling away. Things have been closing out. You've been, learning things about yourself that you wouldn't have experienced or understood about yourself without having moved through those sort of dark nights of the soul. And they don't even have to be that extreme, but without things kind of ending and falling away, which then allows for the new to enter, right? The new chapter to begin. So for some, this, 2025 is about that new chapter beginning, that emergence, right? That starting that next chapter, going down that new path. For some, this could be a year where there's a status change. There's some kind of distinct pivot or change in your life that's very definable. Like you go from single to being partnered, partnered to being single, unknown to being famous, struggling to being abundant. There's so many ways it could play out, but there's like this emergence. And if you look at the death card in tarot, there's obviously like this ending, but then in the background, you see the new beginning. And that's really what the 13-4 is about. It's about these endings and that constant evolution to create something better and to continue to evolve. So our journey this year is about that evolution, those endings and those new beginnings and where they meet, that intersection point. So definitely an opportunity for significant change, evolution, transformation in some area of life or many areas of life, wherever it needs to show up. And because it's our own energy of the 4, it's going to be in those areas where we need the most work, right? Where we need to be released. We need to be freer. So a lot of times with 4 energy, it can be very restrictive. It needs to think outside the box. Sometimes we can be overly loyal or overly dedicated, or maybe we need to be more dedicated. So it's going to show up wherever it needs to within your own energy of your life path to help you to step further into that life path. For some, it might mean that you need, additional lessons in patience, additional lessons in how to embrace the void, like the lulls in life, where everything is not meant to be striving, or not everything is meant to have some kind of return, right? Meaning sometimes you can just create to create. So there's a lot of different, it's very nuanced energy. But these are just some examples of how it could show up. Very powerful cycle, and it can definitely bring complete satisfaction, complete fulfillment and attainment through this regeneration. And so my point of saying that is because, this is about weeding through what's not working and getting rid of it, and then planting those seeds for something better to grow. And that's absolutely what this energy is about. But again, it can show up in different areas of your life that can be uncomfortable when you're moving through it. But then once you move through it and you see what you were able to achieve through that process, it can bring that just complete sense of satisfaction and attainment. And so much is possible with this energy. So much success, so much, again, fulfillment and satisfaction is so possible with this energy. It's just that you have to move through the growing pains of it, right? You have to move through the difficult part to get to, the joyful part, the rewarding part. And this year could be a little bit of that, right? Or a lot of that. Without change, we can't have evolution. Without change, we can't have our manifestations occur. Every time we try to manifest something, we do have to release something to make space for that manifestation. So that change, that release allows for the space for the manifestation to come in. So if there's something that you've been trying to manifest, there will likely be things that you have to release to allow that to come into you, to allow that to come to fruition. So don't fight it. That's really, fighting this energy is, like fighting death, truly. It's like you can't fight death. We're all going to die at some point. Like, not metaphorically, we're truly going to die at some point. And I don't think this energy is saying this. I think this is more metaphorical, of course. But it has that similarity. You cannot fight this energy just like you can't fight death. So, and it's this energy is so serving in so many ways, and it helps us to release our grip on whatever it is that we're clinging to make space for what's more aligned, what's better. But again, being human with egos, it's that release that can be the most challenging or create the most fear, right, of the unknown and how things are going to turn out. And, sometimes 4 energy can be more controlling. It wants to control the aspects. It wants to control the outcome. And, sometimes we can't always do that. And so just have to take that chance and kind of move with the energy. So don't fight this energy. If something needs to be released this year, if something needs to come to closure, let it go. Let it go. Move through the grief or move through the feelings of whatever comes up for you and releasing it. But let it go and then be open to what presents next, because that is, life is cyclical, and this energy is such a good, powerful energy for reminding us of that. So be open to the regeneration that's likely to occur this year. Expect changes that end conditions that no longer serve your path forward. And that's really the keynote here, right? It's about releasing what doesn't serve. It's not about releasing what is working. It's not that. That's not what this energy is about. It's about dismantling what's not working and then building something better. So in whatever area of life that needs to happen. Rigid thought patterns can be broken at this time, opening us up to newfound freedom and opening us up to, to new progress, to new, again, evolution, which is incredibly powerful. This can definitely be a cycle where we see fresh new ideas come in, new people come in, new opportunities, new locations, major changes in life. You likely will look back at 2025 and see this as a point in time that was very pivotal in your journey, right? Some of the changes that come in could be very, very pivotal. And I would say that's going to be a continuation, something that continues in 2026, right? Because then we'll be moving into a 5 cycle. But this is sort of breaking down the foundational barriers. Where there's some foundational flaws, this energy comes in and breaks those down so that we can be open to the changes that really want to come in next year, 2026, and then really build something foundational on those, from those changes. So a lot of transformation here, but positive transformation. Again, it's allowing us to emerge much more aligned to who we truly are and see those, see life kind of mimic that. And, the people, the places, the things come in that are much more aligned with who we are and where we're at on our journey. Animal spirit message this month is porcupine energy. So this is interesting because there's a lot of wisdom with this energy. And so there's also a lot of wisdom with the 4. So I do think this year is going to tap us into a lot of that wisdom. And so much of that wisdom is captured by moving through the challenges, by moving through the releases, the experiences of life. So I do think this year holds a lot of wisdom to be captured. We just have to be open to it and recognize it when we see it. The other thing I would say about porcupine coming through is, porcupines have their quills, but they don't use their quills unless they feel defensive, unless they have to defend themselves. And so I would say, be careful about using your quills when they're not needed, right? So if you're becoming overly defensive, if you're, shooting your quills off to defend yourself, just be careful about when you use them, because a lot of times, we can jump to being defensive when it's not necessary, and we end up hurting people in the process that we didn't intend to hurt. So be careful about being too rigid. Be careful about being too reactionary, right? Or being too overly protective of yourself. Be open. Move with this energy. See who it brings into your life. See what it's trying to show you, and don't be too quick to build a wall or be too dismissive, because it might be uncomfortable, right? The experience might be uncomfortable. Big energy, big energy this year. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Hope it's a great one. All right, take care, 4s. Bye for now.